took me over 24 years to realize something that I'm going to share with you in the next 24 minutes. Something that, if you truly grasp, will change your life forever. You see, for the longest time, I was looking outside of myself, thinking the world and circumstances had the power to define my reality. But what I've come to understand after years of struggle and searching is that the true power lies within us, within our imagination, our assumptions, and most importantly, our ability to live as if we've already achieved our dreams. It took me years to realize that the key to shaping our reality is not in waiting for the world to change, but in changing ourselves. It's in realizing that everything begins within us. Our thoughts, our beliefs, and the images we hold in our minds are the seeds that manifest the life we live. And once we truly understand the power of assumption, of living in the end, and having unwavering faith in ourselves, we unlock the potential that's always been there. So I'm here to tell you, everything you desire is already inside of you, waiting to be realized. Let's take these next 24 minutes together and explore how you can finally unlock the power to create the life you've always wanted. Let me know if you want me to build on this or tweak anything. The power of imagination is one of the most misunderstood yet profoundly transformative forces in our lives. For years, I lived as if my circumstances, my past, and the external world held more influence over me than my own mind. But the truth I only discovered after many years, is that the power to change everything around me was always within me. It was never about the world shaping me. It was about me shaping my world with my imagination. Imagination is not some distant abstract concept. It's not something you only encounter in dreams or fantasy novels. Imagination is the root of all creation. It is a creative force within every human being, available at any moment, in any situation. We are all born with the ability to imagine. Yet for the most part, we've been conditioned to believe that what we see with our eyes is all that exists. We've been taught to ignore the power of our imagination in favor of accepting what seems to be the reality that surrounds us. But reality is not what we see. Reality is what we believe, and belief stems from imagination. This is a powerful understanding that, once embraced, can shift everything in your life. The external world, the circumstances, the limitations that seem to hold you back, they are not your reality unless you allow them to be. What's happening outside of you is simply a reflection of what's happening within you. The imagination, when used consciously, becomes the tool to reshape the external world. When I began to understand this truth, everything changed. I realized that if I wanted to change my circumstances, I didn't have to wait for the world to be different or for something outside of me to change. All I had to do was begin changing what I imagined. I learned that by using my imagination to see the life I wanted, to feel the success, joy, and peace I desired, I could start to experience it in real life. It was not magic. It was simply the application of a fundamental law that governs. At first, this idea felt foreign. I was used to seeing the world as something solid, something I couldn't easily alter. I believed that the things I could touch and feel were real, and everything else was just wishful thinking. But as I began to practice imagining my desires as already fulfilled, as if the life I wanted was already my reality, I began to notice subtle shifts. Things started falling into place in ways I couldn't have planned. Opportunities appeared. People showed up at the right moment. The circumstances I once thought were obstacles turned into stepping stones. All because I had started to see myself in a new way and believe in a new possibility. Imagination is the gateway to that new possibility. It's the tool that connects us to the unseen world of potential. And what we imagine, what we hold in our minds, shapes the world we will eventually experience. But it's not just about daydreaming or wishing for something better. It's about truly aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs with the life you want. It's about consistently imagining what you desire, even when reality seems far from it. Because imagination is not about seeing things as they are, it's about seeing things as they can be. The more you practice this, the more you begin to believe it. And belief is the key to unlocking the power of imagination. Once you believe that what you're imagining is already happening, you open the door to your subconscious mind. The subconscious is where the real magic happens. The subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. If you consistently imagine yourself succeeding, living in abundance, experiencing love and joy, the subconscious mind will work tirelessly to bring that image into your physical reality. This is the power of imagination, and it is available to every single one of us. It doesn't matter where you come from or what challenges you face, your imagination has the power to transcend your current circumstances and create a new reality for you. The key is to use it intentionally, to visualize and feel your desires as if they are already happening, to truly believe that what you imagine is possible. When you do this, you tap into a universal force that responds to your inner world and begins to align the outer world to match. Imagination is the greatest gift we've been given. It's a thread that ties us to our highest potential. It's not something you have to earn or attain. It's something you already possess. The only question is, are you willing to use it? Are you ready to create the life you've always dreamed of? Because it starts in your mind. It starts with what you choose to imagine. And when you begin to see and believe in your desired reality, you will start to live it. So take a moment right now and ask yourself, what have I been imagining? What images have I been holding in my mind? Are they images of success, abundance, love, and joy? Or are they images of limitation, fear, and doubt? The power of imagination is always there, waiting for you to use it. Once you start to direct it toward your greatest desires, the world will begin to shift, and you will realize that everything you've ever wanted has always been within your reach through the power of your imagination. For the longest time, I didn't truly understand the significance of self-awareness. It wasn't until years of struggle, confusion, and failure that I finally began to grasp the profound truth. Everything that happens in our lives starts with us. It was almost as if I had been living in a fog, seeing only the surface of things and attributing my circumstances to external forces. But the moment I realized that the life I was experiencing was a direct reflection of my inner world, everything changed. Self-awareness is not just an abstract concept. It is the key to unlocking the deepest layers of our potential. It is the moment we wake up to the realization that we are not victims of our circumstances, but the creators of our reality. This understanding didn't come overnight for me. In fact, it took years of personal reflection, struggle, and the willingness to face the truth about myself. But once I saw it, once I understood the power of being self-aware, I couldn't go back to the old way of thinking. The truth is, most of us go through life without fully understanding who we are and what we're capable of. We look at our surroundings, our situations, and the challenges we face, and we assume they define us. We think that the external world dictates who we are, how we feel, and what's possible for us. But the real power lies in the awareness that our inner world shapes everything around us. Our beliefs, thoughts, and assumptions about ourselves are constantly creating the experiences we encounter. The process of self-realization begins when we stop pointing fingers at the world and start looking inward. It's about taking responsibility for our lives, our thoughts, and our reactions. Once I took that step, it was like a light bulb turned on. I realized that everything I had ever wanted, success, love, peace, joy, was already available to me, but I was blocking it with the limiting beliefs I held about myself. I had spent so much time focusing on what was wrong outside of me that I had forgotten to look at what was going on inside of me. The moment I became aware of this, I knew that the power to change everything was within my reach. Self-awareness requires honesty with oneself. It's not always easy to admit that we are the ones responsible for our own lives, both the good and the bad. But when you start to look at your life as a reflection of your inner state, You begin to understand that the power to change anything lies within you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. No one can dictate your happiness, your success, or your sense of worth. It is up to you to decide how you see yourself and what you believe about your potential. The journey to self awareness also involves letting go of the stories we've been telling ourselves. We all have narratives we live by, stories about who we are, where we come from, and what we're capable of. These stories are often shaped by our past experiences, by the people around us, and by the culture we've grown up in. But what happens when you begin to question those stories? What happens when you realize that the story you've been telling yourself about not being good enough, not being capable, or not deserving of success is just that, a story? I had to confront these stories within myself. I had to challenge the beliefs that were holding me back and realize that I was not bound by my past, my failures, or the opinions of others. When you become self aware, you see the power of your own thoughts and you understand that you have the ability to rewrite the narrative of your life. You are the author of your own story, and once you become aware of that, you begin to write with intention. The more I practiced self awareness, the more I saw how my inner world directly affected my outer reality. If I believed I was unworthy, that belief would be reflected in my relationships, my career, and my health. But when I shifted my self awareness to a more empowering place, everything around me began to change. This isn't just theory, it's the truth. When you become aware of your power, your potential, and your ability to shape your life, the world starts to reflect that newfound understanding. The key to self awareness is learning to quiet the noise of the world and listen to your own inner voice. It's about tuning into your intuition, understanding your emotions, and being honest with yourself about what you truly want and what you truly believe. It's about getting rid of the distractions that keep you focused on the external world and turning your attention inward to discover your true self. Self awareness isn't a one time event, it's a lifelong practice. The more I practice being aware of my thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, the more I see the power I have to shape my life, and the more I realize that everything I've ever wanted is already within me, waiting to be awakened. Once you understand this, your life will never be the same. You will begin to see that you are the creator of your own reality and that the path to your dreams begins within you. Self awareness is the first step toward the life you've always desired. The law of assumption is one of the most powerful yet simple principles that governs our reality, and it was one of the last pieces of the puzzle for me to understand. For so many years, I tried to change my life by focusing on external circumstances, hoping that the right situation, the right job, or the right person would finally bring me the success and happiness I desired. But what I failed to grasp was that my outer world was merely a reflection of the assumptions I held deep within me. It wasn't until I understood the true power of assumption that my life began to transform in ways I never thought possible. The law of assumption is rooted in the idea that what we assume to be true will become our reality. It's a principle that suggests that thoughts, beliefs, and expectations we hold about ourselves, others, and the world around us will manifest in our lives. Whether we are conscious of it or not, we are constantly assuming things about ourselves, our abilities, and our future. These assumptions shape our reality because they influence how we behave, what opportunities we take, and how we interpret the events that unfold in our lives. For a long time, I was unaware of the fact that my assumptions were shaping my world. I didn't realize that the constant belief that I wasn't good enough, that success was for others but not for me, and that my dreams were too big, was actually creating the very limitations I wanted to escape. The moment I became aware of the law of assumption, I realized that I had the power to change my life simply by changing the assumptions I held about myself and my future. At first, it wasn't easy. Our minds are conditioned to focus on what's real, on what we can see, feel, and touch. But the law of assumption isn't about waiting for the external world to match our desires. It's about assuming in the present moment that the life we want is already here. It's about embodying the belief that what we desire is not only possible, but inevitable. When you begin to assume that the success, abundance, and happiness you seek are already yours, you start to act, think, and feel in alignment with that assumption. I remember when I first tried applying this principle, I assumed that success was already a part of my life, even though the reality I was experiencing was far from it. At first, it felt like a stretch. My circumstances didn't reflect the assumptions I was trying to live by. But as I continued to assume that I was worthy, capable, and deserving of success, my thoughts and actions began to shift. I started making decisions from a place of certainty instead of doubt. I took actions that aligned with the belief that my desires were already on their way to me. Slowly but surely, the world around me began to respond to those assumptions. Opportunities appeared. People took notice. The conditions for success were created because I had assumed they already existed. The law of assumption is powerful because it taps into the subconscious mind, which doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. When you assume something with enough conviction, the subconscious mind begins to work to bring that assumption into physical form. The key is to assume the best version of yourself and your life, and to live as though it's already happening. When you believe that your desires are already yours, you are sending a signal to your subconscious that you are ready to receive them. But there's a catch. It's not just about saying affirmations or thinking positive thoughts. The assumption must be felt deeply, experienced as though it is already your reality. It's not about waiting for something to change on the outside before you can believe in your success. It's about believing in it first. It's about living from the end, as Neville Goddard often taught, and feeling the emotions of success, abundance, and happiness as if they've already been realized. When you apply the law of assumption, you are creating a shift in your perception. You are no longer seeing yourself as someone who is struggling or waiting for things to improve. Instead, you see yourself as someone who already has what they desire. And that shift in perception brings about a shift in your reality. The law of assumption works because it aligns your inner world with your outer. When you assume the best about yourself and your life, the world begins to reflect that assumption back to you. This is the power of the law of assumption. It's not about hoping, wishing, or waiting for something to happen. It's about assuming that what you want is already yours and acting, thinking, and feeling in alignment with that assumption. When you do this, the world responds. The universe, your subconscious mind, and the people around you begin to reflect the reality you have assumed. And in this way, you create the life you desire. I can tell you from personal experience that this principle works. It works because it taps into the most powerful force we have, our thoughts and beliefs. And when you change your assumptions, you change your life. So ask yourself, what are you assuming about your life right now? Are you assuming that you're stuck? Are you assuming that success is out of reach? Or are you assuming that everything you desire is already on its way to you? The law of assumption is not just a concept, it's a way of living. And when you start to live from a place of assumption, you will see your reality begin to shift in ways that are nothing short of miraculous. Living in the end, as Neville Goddard so often teaches, is one of the most transformative practices you can adopt. It is the realization that everything you desire is already yours. Not in the future, not in some distant, far-off place, but right now in the present moment. When I first encountered this idea, it seemed almost too simple, too easy to be true. But as I began to apply it in my own life, the results were nothing short of astonishing. Living in the end is not about waiting for your desires to materialize in the physical world. It's about assuming, feeling, and believing that they are already real. It's about embodying the feeling of having what you want right now, regardless of what is happening externally. This practice requires a deep level of faith, not in something outside of you, but in your own power to create your reality. The truth is, the moment you begin to live in the end, your life starts to reflect that assumption. Because the subconscious mind operates on the belief that what is imagined is real. For much of my life, I was focused on the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. I looked at the present moment as a place of lack, a place where my dreams hadn't yet come true. I thought success, abundance, love, and fulfillment were things that were coming to me in the future, and I had to work hard, struggle, and wait for them to appear. But once I understood the power of living in the end, everything changed. I realized that the key to manifesting my desires was not to chase after them, but to begin to live as if I already had them. Living in the end requires a shift in mindset. It's about thinking, feeling, and acting as though the life you desire is already your reality. It's about removing the idea that there is something you need to do or something you need to wait for before you can experience the success, love, or abundance you want. Instead, you must start living as if it's already here. This doesn't mean pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring your current circumstances. It means aligning your thoughts and feelings with the reality you want to create, even when your present situation doesn't seem to match it. One of the most powerful ways to live in the end is to imagine and feel the emotions associated with your desires as though they are already true. If you want to experience financial abundance, for example, begin to feel what it would be like to have all the money you need right now. Imagine the freedom, the security, and the joy that would come with it. If you desire love, picture yourself already in a loving, fulfilling relationship and feel the emotions of love, connection, and happiness as though they are happening in this moment. It's not enough to simply think about your desires. You must feel them, live them, and breathe them as if they are happening right now. This is the essence of living in the end. The moment you do this, you are sending a clear message to your subconscious mind: this is my reality. And because the subconscious doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is imagined, it begins to align your external world with this new assumption. Opportunities begin to unfold. You start to notice things that were once invisible to you. You meet people who reflect your new belief. The external circumstances that once seemed like obstacles start to transform. This is the magic of living in the end. Living in the end also means letting go of the need for validation from the outside world. Often we wait for external evidence that our desires are on the way, waiting for the paycheck to arrive, the promotion to come through, or the relationship to manifest. But living in the end requires you to trust that the moment you begin to feel and believe that your desires are already real, the universe will rearrange itself to match that vibration. It's about trusting in the unseen, having faith that the moment you decide something is yours, it will find its way to you. At first, it may feel unnatural. You might feel doubt creeping in. Your current reality may look very different from the life you want, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that living in the end is a fantasy or wishful thinking. But I can tell you from experience that it works. The key is persistence. You must continue to live in the end, even when it doesn't seem to make sense. The more you practice this, the more you'll see the result. When I began to live in the end, I was astounded by the changes I saw in my life. Things began to happen effortlessly. The opportunities I had long hoped for suddenly appeared. People began to show up in my life who supported my vision, and the most incredible part, it wasn't because I was forcing things to happen, but because I had shifted my energy and belief to match the reality I desired. The more I lived in the end, the more my external world reflected it. Living in the end is not about pretending that nothing is wrong or ignoring challenges. It's about recognizing that your true power lies in your ability to create your reality through your thoughts and feelings. When you live in the end, you are not waiting for your desires to come. You are living as though they have already arrived, knowing that the universe will respond to your belief. This practice, once truly understood and embraced, has the potential to transform every area of your life. The key is to start now, to begin living as if what you want is already yours. When you do, the world will begin to reflect your assumption, and you'll realize that everything you ever desired was always waiting for you, just a shift in perception away Faith, when truly understood, becomes the foundation for all manifestation. I spent many years questioning faith, wondering if it was something that came from an external source or if it was simply an idea passed down through teachings and doctrines. But as I delved deeper into the concepts taught by Neville Goddard, I realized that faith isn't something outside of us. It is the very essence of what we believe and feel on the deepest level. Faith is not blind hope or passive waiting. It is an active inner conviction that what you desire is already true, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. In my early years, I always thought of faith as something that had to be earned, something that required proof or validation. I believed that you had to wait for external circumstances to align before you could fully trust or believe that something would come to fruition. But this couldn't have been further from the truth. True faith, as I came to understand it, is not about evidence, it is about a knowing. It is about believing in something without needing any physical proof. It's the ability to trust that what you desire is already done, that it already exists in the unseen, and that all you need to do is align your inner world with it. This realization was a turning point for me. Once I understood that faith wasn't about waiting for something to happen, it was about knowing deep within myself that had already happened, I began to live differently. I stopped looking at my circumstances as an indication of what was possible. Instead, I began to trust that the reality I wanted was already mine simply because I believed it to be so. The shift in thinking changed everything.